Welcome to another episode of Grain of Salt. I am Wild Bill, and I am here in Studio A that has been provided for me to be a platform to talk to you. And by the way, we're on 3 networks now. We are not only on Facebook under William Wild Bill Burt, B-U-R-T, but we are also on YouTube, I believe Wild Bill 4088. Well, recently, I'm learning how to use TikTok. Now, you'd laugh too, because it wasn't too long ago that I got a smartphone. I used a flip phone up until just recently. So, I'm a technological genius, let me tell you. And I'm on TikTok now, and I don't know how to tell you to find me there. Just look for Wild Bill or something like that. But and by the way, those of you that are on TikTok, you're a little bit behind. I'm transferring videos from a while back over to y'all, trying to get you caught up to where we are now on YouTube and Facebook. So, at any rate, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for your prayers. I continue to pray. This is how I pray as far as for Grain of Salt Ministries. By the way, we're not 501c3 and all that stuff. You know why? Because don't send me no money. I don't want it. Send it to the widows, the orphans, and the poor, and those who are afflicted by the hurricane. That and your support, your givings and all that stuff. That's who needs it. Not anyway. I'll move on. But, and pray for those folks up there. And back to what I was saying about myself. If you're going to pray for me, pray that I'd have boldness to, and that's another reason I don't want your money, is because if you get money tied up in a situation, that means I'm serving you and not my Messiah. So I don't want anything to inhibit what I can say and what I can't say. If money gets involved, that means I'm beginning to please you, and I don't care that much about pleasing you. I just want to say the words that are on my heart and mind to say. So, boy, I might have already stepped on about a lot of toes with that, but let's move on. And some of you are saying, yes, please, Wild Bill, move on. You're really meddling now. Sorry. But anyway, we was talking about the warnings, of these false prophets and false teachers. And, Matthew 24, he come out of the temple, and not only had he been pronouncing judgments and woes on the false prophets and teachers of that day, which were the highest of the religious system of that day, the ones that were leading the people in that day, he was pronouncing woes, which are judgments, and calling them, boy, he was blistering them good with it. I mean, gave them a good striping. And, he come out of the building, and the boys didn't know what to say. And so they started talking about how wonderful the city looked. And he said, I'm going to tell you what, I ain't done yet. Not one stone will be left on another. So not only did he judge the religious system of that day, he also judged the place where they could keep doing their religious system. And we know what happened in around 70 A.D. It was judgment. It was judgment. So, anyway, he continues, though, to talk to the 12. And he warns them several times in that chapter alone about these false prophets and false teachers. Matthew 24, verse 4, he says, see to it that no one misleads you. Now, who had he been talking to just prior to that? The false prophets and false teachers, the scribes and the Pharisees, and all their lies. And he says, for many will come in my name. And that's what they were doing. They were coming, excuse me, folks, they were coming to the people in the name of God and saying, we have the words of God. Just like the false prophets did back in Jeremiah's day or Isaiah's day, And he said they are going to mislead you, and they're going to even say, I am the Christ. And they will mislead many. many. You know why they mislead many? Because they tell the people what the people want to hear. And so he goes on to say, on down through there, he says, at that time, many will fall away and will betray one another. I got to make a turn right here, folks. Let me make this turn and I can continue. I got to pay attention. And tied to that is the very next verse that says, many false prophets will arise and will mislead many. Right before that, he said, and at that time many will fall away and will betray one another and hate one another. And right after that, he says, many false prophets will arise and will mislead many. Isn't it funny how they're tied to the misleading of the people? And then he goes on to say, for false Christ and false prophets will arise and will show forth great signs and wonders. Great signs and wonders? You mean they can do that? That's what Jesus said, not me. He said that they will, the false prophets now, show forth great signs and wonders. So as to, why will they do this? To mislead many. And if it were possible, they would even mislead the elect. The ones that were chosen before the foundation of the world. His sheep, that he calls out of the sheepfolds of the world, according to John chapter 10. And he says on down, next verse I believe it is, he said, behold, I have told you beforehand. He warns us beforehand. So we need to be forewarned. We need to know. We need to pay attention. These guys are ravenous wolves that tear the sheep to pieces. They take everything they got and leave nothing behind. They leave a trail of death. We said before in another video that the greatest enemy of the sheep in that day that Jesus was telling these things was the wolf, the false prophets. Well, I wonder who our greatest enemy is in this day. Who is misleading many? Think about it. Take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, though. I could be wrong.